hope you enjoy this program about my favorite topic, tropical fish. Video cassettes of this program are available for $14.95 each by writing to Video Sig, 1030 East Duane Avenue, Suite C, Sunnyvale, California, 94086, or call 1-800-245-6717. In California, call 1-800-222-2996.
Look at the pretty blue ones.
Hey, Mom, the fish have babies!
Paul, what's this new fish?
Well, look at the extensive development of the barbels, the whiskers there. It's obviously a pimmolated cat of some kind.
Mardell Laboratories and Aquarian Food are proud to present Help with the Home Aquarium from Paul Speece, the Aquatic Maestro.
Well, where do you think you are? Some big municipal aquarium? Au contraire, fish hobbyist person. We are in the living room of Craig Smith in Uniontown, Ohio. Now, this is probably the ultimate in terms of the home aquarium. And to give you some feel for the size of this, it's 5 feet long. So you're looking at maybe a half a dozen of these specimens that are in the 6, 7, 8-inch range. Quite a heavy animal load, but beauty? Oh, name a color that isn't in there. There can't be any. Look at this. Just a fantastic setup. How much do these cost? Well, some of them are an investment. They range in price probably from the Ask for Angel, which Craig tells me if he could find one, it might cost you about $1,000. And we've got a couple small common fish in there, Grandma Loretto. Maybe the smallest one is that cleaner wrasse, and that might go for $8 or $9 today. So quite a range in terms of price. Certainly a variety of fish in terms of butterflies, angels, tangs, whatever. So well, by any measure, by any standards, a beautiful collection. Look at the, just the brilliance of even the hepatis tang is a rather common fish. And, but look at the size of this guy, and he's growing like gangbusters, from what Craig says. Well, you look around, the purple tang, just beautiful fish. There's one in here that I got some years ago because my wife's name is Lo, and that's that rabbit fish that's quite prominent with the snout, Lo vulpinus. And that guy, you want to be a little careful around handling. He's got a little sting in him. You handle him wrong, you're liable to end up with a memory of it because of the toxin. But this is a neat collection of fish, and yeah, we've come a long way now from my start in this, because I had a saltwater aquarium 35 years ago, and I had it set up in a pet shop. And it was successful, I guess, by any standards, not by these standards, but the fish lived, and the black mollies. You see, we all kept black mollies in those days because there wasn't really a big selection. The black mollies lived, and we actually had babies in there. So here's my successful metal framed aquarium with black asphaltum to keep the salt water off of the metal and all that. My aquarium ended in this fashion. You ready for this? A, B, C, or D. You want to pick one of them, how it ended? No, you don't have it, baby. A semi-truck backed into it and knocked it over. So help me. Guy's making a delivery at the pet shop, and the door on the back of the truck is standing open, and he pushes it through the front of the building, and over goes the aquarium. Well, things have changed, as I say, and we've come to this. Isn't this remarkable? How would you like to have that in your living room? Tank beautiful? Well, it suggests that maybe the topic today is the saltwater aquarium. Boy, is it hot here. Look, you can see I'm melting, but that's the way it is in Tampa. And we're down here at International Seaboard, courtesy of Jerry Eas, to shoot fish, marine fish. That's what we're talking about today. Now, we've been doing a lot of work with freshwater fish. You've seen this stuff
already that we've done at Jim White's. That was all freshwater. This is all saltwater. Now, we recognize that those two kinds of water exist. Sometimes we forget that there is a gradient in between. The so-called brackish water fish. These fish have a range of tolerance for different saltwater. But today, it's the marine fish. And people will say to you, oh, see, if you're good enough at keeping freshwater fish, maybe you can graduate into keeping saltwater fish. Bushwhack. Fish are fish. What you've got to learn is to take care of the water quality and feed them right. Those are the two of the fundamental rules in this. If you'll do that, you can keep these. I got a friend who has an enormous aquarium, about 12 feet long. And in there he had a fish, a bluehead wrasse, that grew and grew and grew and got to be about 9 inches long. Beautiful male, but every time he tried to put a couple more of these in, whatever they were, the bluehead wrasse ate them. That's natural. That's what fish do. They eat fish. So he thought, I'll get the bluehead wrasse out. Now, how do you do that with all that coral and the fish duck and hide, especially with wrasses who go into the sand if they don't like things? How are you going to get that out? I'll tell you how my friend Cal did it. He took a little small fish hook, a little bologna on a line, you know, threw it in there, bingo, caught the black trigger. Wrong. Unhooked the black trigger, put it back in, a little more bologna, bingo, caught the black trigger. Hey, tie him up, let him hang on a light there for a minute while we get another fish hook and some more bologna, and we catch the bluehead wrasse and get him out, release the black trigger. Everybody's happy. Don't tell me about delicate fish. I'm telling you, if they die, you probably didn't do your homework. Now, look at behind me here. Dwarf angels. Oh, we got some butterflies. Got heniocus again. These are small ones, of course. They're maybe $50 size. And we saw these big guys down at the SeaWorld. They were, you know, little. But this is probably what you would see at the pet shop level. And a number of other fish. If we're going to keep these, we've got to put salt in the water. How much? What kind? I'll tell you that in a minute. But if you're going to keep them, then you better know how much. And the way you determine that is by using a hydrometer. This is Aquarium Systems hydrometer. And testing it is really simple, because all you do is take this, dip it into the aquarium water up to a prescribed level, lines on there, make sure there are no bubbles adhering, and bingo, you have the salinity. Well, what you really have is a specific gravity, but that's another story. But you have set the water to be what you want for your fish. Dr. David Ford confronted a special challenge in developing a type of aquarian food specifically for marine fish.
One of the fascinating facts about marine fish is that they developed in the oceans millions of years ago, when the salt level was much lower than it is today. And the fish in those days were in perfect osmotic balance with their environment. Nowadays, of course, the salt has increased. There is about 3% salt in the oceans as against 2% salt in the bodies of the fish. Now, that does mean that you get an effect called osmosis, where the higher salt levels in the sea is dragging water out of that fish, dehydrating it. So what you find with marine fish is that they will drink the water in which they live, unlike tropical fish or goldfish who do not do so. Now, because they drink that water and they extract the salts and pack the liquid back into their cells, because they drink it, then obviously they will take in any toxins that are there. And if you feed a fish on too high a protein diet, what happens is the protein is utilized by the fish as an energy source, which will produce ammonia, nitrites, and all those toxins in the water that marine aquarists are familiar with. And that's why it's so important that a balanced diet for marine fish has been produced, of the type that we've done for an aquarian blend for marine fish. Now, this indeed doesn't have too high a protein level. It is balanced such that the fish will only use the protein for bodybuilding, but only the carbohydrate as an energy source. This produces carbon dioxide and water, which doesn't pollute the marine aquarium. Don't forget also that invertebrates, all of the anemones and tube worms and so on that one can keep in the home coral reef have exactly the same problem. They are so sensitive to the toxins that can develop in the water. So again, one must have a very balanced diet. One must not overfeed, and therefore one must use a food that packs in all the nutrients that these animals require. Now, it is important in the feeding regime that you don't overfeed. It is possible in a tropical tank or ordinary freshwater tank to actually add more food than the fish require. But in a marine tank, this is a dangerous practice because that surplus food can break down and pollute the aquarium. So do feed your fish by hand. Do get to know exactly how much they require. And feed also a prepared food of this type so that you know they're getting exactly the right levels of amino acids, of vitamins and minerals that they require without surplus polluting the very sensitive waters of the marine aquarium.
Now, we've heard a little bit about feeding the fish. We've learned a little bit more. One thing that is definitely a food for an awful lot of these marine fish is algae. And algae grows like any other plant with light and food. And if you use up the food that's in the aquarium, then we got to go to the sea garden. This is aquarium system's supplement, vitamins, trace elements that for the growth of algae as a food for fish. And such fish as we're looking at back here. At Seaboard International, they're collecting all over the world, primarily around the Philippines. About 80% of the fish here are found in the neighborhood of the Philippines, but a lot of Pacific animals that we're looking at here. And dynamite fish. Look what's in this aquarium. Look at this collection of fish that as they swim around, milling around together. This is just fantastic. Probably the thing that dominates the viewing is this school of blue hepatus tangs. They surely catch the eye. There are a lot of other tangs in here. There's an Achilles in here. That's the guy with that bright red spot in the tail. We've got butterflies in here. Got angelfish. You say, wait a minute. I've seen those angelfish, those marine angelfish. They're as big as a dinner plate. Some of them are small. There are a couple of different kinds of dwarf angels in here. Look at that Flamius, the Centropyge loriculus. Take your pick. They call it by both species names. What else is in here? Oh, the batfish. Old batfish is going to get pretty big in here. But for the time being, he'll do fine. A chevron tang. You can actually see the markings in them. Really nice fish. Yellow, the yellow tang. A collection of fish that is dynamite. But we got to remember here that we're talking about a collection of fish that are saltwater fish, and as such, they are fish that are different than what we've been keeping if you've been at the freshwater game. How so? Two ways. First of all, the freshwater fish is very adaptable by comparison. And the reason is simple. For the last 100,000 years, these freshwater fish living in the streams, swamps, lakes, whatever, have been adapting to changes in these bodies of water as the weather changed. They've evolved an adaptability. But think about the ocean now. The salt water never changes. The volume of the ocean prevents that. So here we have a fish that does not have that adaptability. So we got to take care of that water quality so we don't force them to adapt to something that they've never done before. The other side of the coin is this. The saltwater fish is living in an intimate relationship with the water it's in. So is the freshwater fish. But the saltwater fish is drinking it too. Freshwater fish don't drink. Saltwater fish in their habitat are living in a solution that's rich in salts, a little richer than the blood that they have inside them. As a result, by a process known as osmosis, fluids, water, escape from the fish right through the gills, through the body, into the saltwater. And to make up for this, the saltwater fish must drink on a continual basis. Then what happens? Well, if the water is polluted, you can see that the fish is ingesting whatever's in there in the way of problems right inside the fish. This has to be avoided. So I guess we're talking about a collection of fish that are not going to tolerate that lackadaisical approach that maybe you took as a freshwater hobbyist. And still we're talking about a complex, very hardy animal that, given half a chance, given the patience in the beginning of the setup, given the chance to have a good diet and water control by me, the keeper, given all of these things, these fish really are tough. Now, we've seen clownfish in anemones before, but look at this. There is no room at the inn, as we say. One anemone here with, 10 clowns trying to get in there? And we're looking at a relationship between a fish and an invertebrate, the anemone. This relationship, symbiosis, benefits both of them. Now, here at SeaWorld, where we're watching this, we're looking at maybe 200 clownfish, and they are of two different species, all amphiprian, but only a couple of anemones. So we see them aggressively trying to get it, especially when I move toward them and they get frightened a little bit. Then they say, hey, head for home. And by the way, a note of interest, they're breeding these right here. So the results of their work in the back room is that when we show up as a viewer on the outside here, we get to see this living soup. Beautiful. Before we start considering a new topic, it occurs to me that when I mentioned my friend Cal's problem with his wrasse, that maybe you don't even know what a wrasse is. Well, look in here. These are wrasses. Wrasses are fish that are long and round, tubular in shape, all shaped about the same, as you can see. That one there, the green one with the long snout, the Hawaiian bird wrasse. There's a couple of chorus in here, some saddle wrasses named for the marking in them. These are wrasses. Now you know what a wrasse is, and you probably know what this is. It's a lobster of some kind, isn't it? Well, a little small for the dinner plate. This is a red lobster that comes from the Philippines, and right beside it, that guy with the extremely long barbels is another Philippine lobster, the blue one. Now, what are we looking at here? We're looking at invertebrates. Now, think about the freshwater aquarium. When you were keeping your freshwater aquarium, was there anything in there that wasn't a fish? And we real quickly come to what? Snails? And that's sort of the end of it. There's an exact opposite game in this saltwater aquarium. We're talking about invertebrates as a class of animals that has no backbone. So there are a lot of things that fit into this picture. The two lobsters that we looked at. And this next customer. Sure, a lot of people know what nudibranchs are, and this Spanish dancer is certainly a big one. The old pros are sitting there saying, I knew what that was. But did you see the other two invertebrates that are living in there with them? You didn't see those two little shrimp that are doing a number under his mantle, huh? Invertebrates, no backbones, different kinds. What do we got here? Feather duster worms. These are opportunistic feeders. They're filter feeders. And in response to the motion of water, these guys come out with all those feathery things and collect the food that the ocean currents bring to the table. Another invertebrate. And here is a urchin, a pencil urchin. See how bold the legs are, the spines are on these guys? And that's because they come from the tidal pools, where they take quite a beating, as opposed to some of the other urchins that have almost needles for spines. Oh, we're talking about invertebrates, and the ones we just looked at, you might think of as being, big, gross almost in it, that are very large and coarse. That's true to some extent. What we're looking at here now are some other invertebrates that are a little more delicate. And this sunflower is really that. Just delicate. Look at sunflower coral. Notice those small, fine, feathery fingers sticking out all over the place in response to the water current that is moving through this aquarium. And that's the way Mother Nature works. Every time the water came flowing across the reef, everything that feeds in this fashion gets up and puts everything out that it has to trap any passing food. Corals. What else do we see here? Surrounded are a lot of the macroalgae, and these are growing very well in response to the light that Jerry has over this tank. He's got 2 actinic bulbs and 2 cool white bulbs. So if you're going to keep invertebrates, then it's a simple game like it is with everything else: diet and water quality, habitat, and the third member of that triumvirate, compatibility. Because you got to remember this: down at the bottom, when the dinner bell rings, everybody heads for what they want to feed on. Some fish eat some invertebrates. Got to be careful how you mix them. Keeping the reef tank is a rather sophisticated move. Before we're ready for that, we've got to look at the beginnings of this game, the ABCs. And that starts with setting the aquarium up. Not so much how you set it up. That's a mechanical step, and you can find that out any number of places. The success comes in understanding why we do the things we do. And it starts with putting this on the bottom of the aquarium, whatever size it is. We're talking about a 10-gallon aquarium here. This is an under gravel filter plate. This is Lee's version of it. A very good one here. The important things about it are the slits here that allow water to flow down through it, the cavity in the back here that allows water to collect beneath it, that's going back up this hole, which has such an unusual shape. Well, that's unusual only because we want to snap the feet on this tube into that. So let's do that. There we go. So we're starting to build the return column that will be circulating the water in the aquarium. This piece comes in varying lengths and is slipped in here and can be adjusted. See? It slides in and out readily. Here we want to approximate the height of a 10-gallon aquarium. That's 12 inches. So there we have it, with the discharge tube and cartridge in the filter on the end. So we take one of these. Now in this box from Lee's, we get 2 of these halves. They cover the bottom of the aquarium, and we set that into the aquarium, and we cover it with gravel. And you remember in the freshwater game, we covered it with the epoxy-colored gravels, whatever matched the drapes, I always say. Well, today we're looking at a different ground cover. It still serves the one function of the gravel in the freshwater aquarium. That is, it provides the seat for these good guy bacteria. Simple as that. The other function is that this material, which invariably is dolomite or crushed coral, crushed seashells, whatever, and comes in a number of different grades. It comes in rather fine stuff. It comes in a coarser mix, and this is normally what's used in the aquarium, something about this size. Whatever the material, it is rich in calcium and magnesium and helps control the chemistry of the water as the aquarium ages. So we cover this with 2 to 3 inches of that gravel base, and that gives us a lot of perching places for bacteria. Why? Well, now we got to start thinking about some things that are out of sight. The chemistry of the water is vital to the success, and it begins being polluted the instant we pop the fish in, because they put some rather nasty stuff into the water from their gills, from their vent, and the primary insult is ammonia, NH3. Notice the nitrogen in there, the N. In the presence of some of these good guy bacteria, this ammonia is converted to nitrites, and then by another one to nitrates. And so ultimately we have an aquarium water that is suitable for the long-term success of these beautiful fish that we're trying to keep. And boy, there are a lot of beautiful fish here at International Seaboard.